Hello puzzle people, welcome if it's your first time here, welcome back if you've been here before. This is chapter 15 of my puzzle story. Continuing on from the last video where I talked about the World Championships individual rounds, we now move on to the pairs rounds. My partner for the pairs rounds was Tess McLachlin. To learn more about her, check out episode 2 of Puzzled Chatty on this channel. The link is in the description below. This video is just on my experiences in the rounds that I participated in. For a more general overview of Worlds, please watch the recap videos that are also posted on this channel. The pairs competition started on day 4 of this week-long event. Unlike in the individual rounds, I was not in the first qualifier, which was very nice. And it was a 12:30 start for this round, much better than the first round that had to go, which I think was at 9 a.m., and better than those 4 p.m. starts I've had in the previous 3 days, where it was way too hot. So 12:30 seemed like it was going to be a good time to start the pairs event. Tess and I didn't have much time to practice in advance. We live in very different parts of Canada, so it's not easy to meet up and practice. So the first time that we were actually able to see how we work together as a pair was in Spain. We did 2 practice puzzles beforehand in less than ideal conditions. One was right after I had finished a individual round, so not feeling great after that, which whatever. And then we did another one later in the day, again outside. It was getting dark and not ideal conditions, but it was just kind of a good way to just see how our styles matched up, and overall it went pretty well, I guess, given the circumstances. But regardless how those practice sessions went, we were pretty confident that we were making it through the semifinals at the very least. We couldn't really see a way that we wouldn't make it into the semifinals unless the puzzle choices were ridiculous, but that's unlikely. And being in the third of the 4 qualifiers was also nice because it did let us, the thought process behind it was that we'd be able to see if there was going to be a pattern in the choice of puzzles that each pairing was getting. However, if it was based off the puzzle choices that the individual rounds had, there wasn't going to be any common sense, any consistency, we'll go with consistency, across what the different puzzle choices were going to be. And the weird options did continue on from the individual rounds. So qualifier A, they had a standard rectangle puzzle and a circle puzzle, which is what all the individual rounds had, qualifier rounds had, so it looked like that trend was just going to continue through. Then the second qualifier for pairs went, and they had 2 rectangular puzzles, but one was this puzzle here that was used in the Spanish finals or the Spanish nationals from the year before. So a lot of people had seen it and already done it. I had already done it. And the other puzzle was Sloth Selfie, which is an insanely hard puzzle. Only one pair picked it. They didn't go through. So yeah, it could be anything now going into the third qualifier, our qualifier. Like most puzzlers, you try to make predictions on what types of puzzles might show up or may not show up because of all the choices that had already happened at Worlds. It's so hard to predict anything. But before we got to Worlds, we thought something from the Colorful Creatures series may show up, so that includes the red lionfish, the colorful chameleon, the butterfly, and the peacock. One of those 4 we thought may make an appearance. The peacock we already knew wasn't going to be there because it was said, I think Ravensburger themselves said that there weren't going to be, that brand wasn't going to make an appearance, or that image wasn't going to make an appearance. So that made us feel a bit better, but there's still 3 to choose from. I don't know why we thought this series was going to show up, but probably because at Worlds they tend to pick at least 1 or 2 series to showcase a puzzle from it. So this made a good bet. It was a more recent collection, so who knows. Of those options, red lionfish was going to be ideal. Really hoping for that one to make an appearance. I practiced that one a lot, and we had a pretty good idea how we'd separate that puzzle up. The chameleon, also not too difficult in comparison. So we would be okay with that. It's a bit harder to sort that between two people, but we can make it work. Butterfly we did not want to see. It looks simpler than it is. It is not simple at all. It's quite challenging, and Peacock we knew wasn't going to make an appearance. But if we get chameleon or red lionfish, we're good to go. If we get butterfly, probably not picking it, depending on what the other puzzle is. So as we are waiting to start, we can kind of see through the bag a little bit. We can see the Colorful Creatures logo that's on the side of the box, so we know that's one of them. And then the other puzzle looks like it's probably a landscape. Can't quite tell. It's interesting how much information we're all trying to get by looking at different angles of the bag, not touching the bag, but looking at different angles of the bag and trying to look at this image that's through a mostly opaque casing around. But any small advantage you can get, great. The landscape is probably what we were going to go with if we're predicting things right. We don't know what the landscape is, though. We were also placed at table 166 out of 171, which was odd for a few reasons, but not important. The people sharing the table beside us, so the pair that was supposed to be beside us didn't show up, so that was nice having the extra space. There was no one behind our table as well, so there was a ton of open space, so it was actually nice being at the back. You're not feeling cramped like you are in the rows further up. So some benefits to that, I guess. And again, with not a lot of people around you, given how hot the dome is, that probably helped with the heat a little bit as well. The round starts and we get the 1 minute to decide because of the weird rules at Worlds this year. And the options are a nightmare. It is butterfly and lupins. Is it lupins or lupines? I've heard both. I'm going to call them lupins for the rest of this video. If it's wrong, I don't care. Lupins. But this is my worst case scenario. Because we both know how deceptively hard the butterfly image is, we make the decision not to go with it and go with lupins, which is minimally better. Minimally. I want to restate how much I dislike flowers in puzzles, especially pink flowers and especially pink lupins. Purple ones are bad too. I take the border and Tess is the faster puzzler on average, so it makes more sense for her to start working on the inside of the puzzle as quickly as possible. So she starts with the sky. And once I finish the border, I would move on to the lupins and start working from the bottom up, or attempt to. Reflecting back on this, Tess being the stronger puzzler, in this scenario, it maybe would have made more sense for her to have started with the lupins. I could still have done the border, but having her start with the lupins would have made more sense. The sky would have been fine with me. There's not a really high level difficulty to it, so I could have gone through that quite easy and then joined up with Tess. And this screenshot coming up would show that, honestly, it might have made more sense because it could have been worse from my end. I made next to no progress with the flowers while Tess finished the sky. This screenshot shows the moment that Tess did finish the sky, and I had done all with the bottom of the puzzle. I had the flowers sorted by colors. I was working on a shape sort to hopefully move things along a little bit quicker. The goal from the qualifiers is to qualify, to get to the semifinals. And in my mind, I was super nervous. We continue to make progress. Well, Tess continues to make progress as she works from the top down. I'm really just moving pieces around at this point. It's not good for me. We eventually switch sides and she starts working from the bottom up and I'm working from the top down now, but I'm picking up speed as we move through. There's less pieces to go through, so that's obviously going to play a factor in it. But perhaps the trick for lupins is working upside down. something to consider. We do eventually finish with a time of 40 minutes and 25 seconds and finish in 36th place. The top 85 move on, and there was a total of 156 pairs, so we move through quite easily. However, at that moment, it's probably the worst I've ever felt after a puzzle round was finished. And I've spoken about other bad rounds I've had before at Canadian Nationals in previous videos. After a couple virtual competitions, but this one was different. Like I said, it was my worst case scenario. I knew immediately at the start my contribution was going to be minimal. But unlike my previous not so great rounds, this one impacted somebody else. It's the first time I've had a pairs round or a teams round where I was useless, essentially, in that. Yes, our time was 40 minutes and something seconds, but a good portion of that was done by Tess. It was... If I wasn't there, I don't know, maybe she takes an extra... She probably qualifies anyways for the finals. It's... Yeah, I don't know what else to say. As a small token, Tess got to keep both puzzles. I guess I didn't want to see Lupins ever again, and I already owned the butterfly puzzle, so it is what it is. But a small token of gratitude, I guess, in that moment. And in hindsight, we did easily qualify now that it's been some time since Worlds. It doesn't seem as bad now if I'm looking purely at the statistics. We were almost under 40 minutes with a difficult puzzle. It's not terrible considering it's between two people who had only done 2 practice puzzles before that in less than ideal conditions. It could have been worse. But this round in particular changed a lot for me as a puzzler. I have done hundreds and hundreds of puzzles, most of them meaningless or at the very least just insignificant, just another puzzle I'm doing and I move on to something else. But every so often there is a specific puzzle or puzzle scenario that stands out for a specific reason. The Canadian Nationals Finals of 2025 had pink flowers in them. And I struggled. The Canadian Nationals pairs qualifier this year had flowers in them. That didn't go great. The World semifinals round that I was in for the individuals had pink flowers throughout that, and pink flowers, but also flower designs within it. And yeah, that might have hurt my chances on going through to the finals. So the theme coming up again is flowers, and this kind of really highlighted it even more. Going forward, I knew that my future training, preparation, whatever you want to call it, was going to have to focus so much more on flowers. And in the last 2 months, month and a half, 2 months, almost every day I've spent some time doing a puzzle that has a flower base or theme to it. And because I'm doing it so often, there's been already I can see results. And it's been through virtual competitions that have been heavily flower based, and my times for those have been very good. So training with a purpose is making a lot more sense now. I think before Worlds I was just doing as many puzzles as possible. That overall that didn't help. It showed me a bunch of different puzzles, but it's not really helping me focus on specific skills. Because of this World's pairs qualifier scenario, things are different. Unfortunately, that mindset doesn't really help me in the moment at Worlds 2025. So there's still a semifinal round to come up later that day as well. My lack of contribution in the qualifier round is weighing heavily on my mind. I know I need to step it up in the semifinals if we have a chance of getting through into the finals. If we're over 40 minutes in the semifinals, we're not making it through. It's a tougher competition this year. I have to be better. Yeah, that's it. I gotta be better. So I am super motivated to make up for it in the semifinals. Really, just as long as flowers aren't the main focus again. The semifinals are unpublished puzzles, which is nice. However, some of the images were apparently leaked in advance. Less than ideal, but whatever. The puzzle from the first semifinal, which we are not in, is this one up here called Furry Friends. I like it. You know why? You know what's not in the puzzle? I've done the Furry Friends puzzle with a partner since Worlds, more casually, but I can see where the tricky bits are. But with good organization, it's quite a fun puzzle to get through. Hopefully, we get something equally as fun in our round. So what will our puzzle be? We open the bags and it is this. I mean, at this point, it can't just be a coincidence that essentially every round that I'm in, flowers are there as well. I could have easily been in the first qualifier and not gotten flowers. There's been other qualifier rounds that didn't have flowers in it. There was, in the individual rounds, 2 of the 3 semifinal puzzles didn't have flowers in them. Mine did, as the other ones. It's just weird at this point. Similar to the qualifier, I take on the border, which proves to be a lot more difficult than I thought, and I move on from it pretty quickly. I think that was the right choice to make and start working on some of the smaller, more colorful projects that are within the puzzle. Tess takes on the face and gets through that fairly quickly. By the time she's done that, I've finished the border finally, most of it, and been able to finish some projects with inside the puzzle. So good progress right off the start. Tess takes the white/pink flowers, which makes sense. We're not making that mistake twice. While I finish off the rest of the colorful bits within the puzzle with the blue design and a few other little things here and there. It's just the greenery that we have left. We shape sorts and get through it in pretty quickly, I would say. There are 2 pieces that we can't find, and obvious pieces. One's in the middle of an orange flower. There's no orange pieces on the table. One's part of the woman's hair. We don't see that on the table anywhere either. We're getting close to the end. There is a 5-second penalty for every piece that you are missing. I think it's 5 seconds. So very quickly, we're kind of doing a scan on the floor around us. We don't see any pieces immediately. So we need to make a decision on if we're just... Your time penalty doesn't start until you say that you're finished. So if you spend a minute looking for it and then say finished, you're going to get a minute 10 added onto your time from the time you did your last piece. So we are getting close, and we make the smart decision, because we don't know how close we are to qualifying or not. Make the decision just to call it, say we're missing 2 pieces, and see how it goes. We finished with a time of 36:08 and in 35th place, making it through to the final by almost 3 minutes. But the slowest qualifying time was under 40, so I was right. If we were as slow as we were in the qualifier, we would not have made the final. So we're through. And looking back at the video, it's about equal in contributions this time, so I'm feeling better after this round. So yeah, we're good. And the best part is that we are through to the finals. That was the goal, the priority goal coming into it, and after my heartbreak with the individuals not making it through to that finals, this again just made me feel better. So I have something to look forward to at the end of the week once the pairs finals will take place. The finals took place on day 6 of this week-long event. The difference now is that it was 1,000 pieces in the final. Tess and I had never done a 1,000-piece puzzle before as a pair or as a team together. So, and it's a different strategy. There's different approaches to it. Don't really know how this is going to go. The only time I've done a pairs 1,000-piece puzzle in competition was at the 2025 Canadian Nationals, and that was with the Toronto puzzle. This one behind me here. That didn't go great. or as great as it could have. I just hadn't been practicing 1,000-piece pairs puzzles enough. That is changing for sure, but at Worlds we're gonna kind of have to see how this goes. The image for this puzzle was leaked in advance, and everybody saw it. So yeah, we did spend some time kind of looking at the image and going through what our strategy might be for it. And honestly, I think we stuck to our strategy for the most part. The final started, and sticking with what we did on the first two puzzles, I went towards the border, while Tess focused on the upper 40% of the puzzle, which was the dome and the sign. Meanwhile, I finished the border, did some sorting, and worked on the bottom portion of the puzzle, and it was coming together pretty well. Again, looking back on the video, this did seem pretty equally split. I've done this puzzle on my own since Worlds, and I don't know if I would have preferred to the upper bit of the dome. I enjoyed it, but I also know the areas I probably could have been a bit faster on the bottom, but I think regardless, it would have been a very similar result at the end. There were some tricky parts in the bottom. The mini puzzles on the tables were a lot harder than I thought they were going to be. The red being spread out in so many different spots, that was less than ideal. But for the most part, it seemed to go well. But with a time of 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 29 seconds, we finished in 57th place overall. 57th best pair in the world. I'm okay with that. And also the 13th best pair making their first appearance at Worlds, which I think is an important factor to consider as well. So of those 57 pairings, 44 had at least one member that has already been there. And that is a benefit. I do think going into the competition, our overall goal was probably to finish higher than that. But for two people who had never done a 1,000-piece puzzle together before, and only done 4 other 500-piece puzzles, I'm pretty okay with the result. I can't speak for Tess, though, who may have a different opinion. And overall, we did make it to the finals. You can't really ask for much more, especially when you look at the pairs that won the whole thing. A lot of them had been working together for much longer. Again, I'm okay with the result. If I'm back at Worlds for 2026, I don't really know what to expect. At this time, I don't know who my partner might be. Pairing up with Tess again would be great, but there's a lot of factors in play right now. But I do know my preparation approach is different going into 2026, focusing on certain areas that I know that I need to improve on, and I will be getting better at those, which will benefit me and whoever my partner is, and whoever I may be on a team with in 2026 as well. So we will see what happens. That is it for this chapter. I did enjoy my Worlds pairs experience overall. Especially with the rough start in the qualifier round and ending on a pretty good note. Now we just need to wait to see what 2026 has in store. Make sure to click subscribe so you stay up to date with everything that's being released on this channel. As always, Speed Puzzling 101 lessons are posted weekly, where I give quick speed puzzling tips in 10 minutes or less. And episode 9 of my puzzle cast, Puzzled Chatty, has been recently released, where I sit down with another Canadian speed puzzler. This one features Iryna, who is Canadian but living in the States, and beating the majority of the US puzzlers, which thrilled with that. And 2026 is almost here, where there'll be new aspects added to this channel, including a international component, where I will be speaking with international speed puzzlers, and I'm very excited for that, and recording for those episodes is starting very soon. That is it for today. Until next time, as always, happy puzzling. Bye.